Good morning, people, as the fishies fade away. How y'all doing? Um, Yamez with Out Metal Forge. With me is uh, Alex with Transcendental Artist Studios. Uh, uh, sorry, just cleaning up a little bit here.
Good
Uh,
morning.
yeah. Good morning. How you doing, Mick Chu? Trail Dust? Stop, Eric. Steven. Bort God, Stephen Parsons, our newest member. Uh, yeah, I almost missed it too, Stephen. Um, there we go. Uh, you got is that a freaking Minecraft emerald hanging over your head? I love it. uh, but yeah, um, as people kind of filter in, we'll say our good mornings and everything. I know Adam said that he will be here at some point. He said, I'll be late, but I'll be there. So, yeah, real quick thing that I'm going to address right now. Roy is a goofball, you know. Well, it's just, Roy, just a goofball. I got video proof that he's a goofball. Had to,
No,
huh?
I said no. You don't, do you?
Yeah, I've also got proof of something that he doesn't want anybody to know, even though he did it publicly. We'll go into that
Well, I mean,
if he shows his face. What's up? But morning bloobs. Um, but yeah, so oh, there's Roy. He's gonna
sweet
try to
rose as
lurk.
ever.
Yeah. Roy, everybody was expecting you to like grab a fistful of flux and throw it on that project you were working on. Just to be like, there, that's how you do it. But let me see. Ho hum ho hum ho hum ho hum ho hum ho hum. And you know, uh, so how was your week there, Sully?
Uh, it was eventful, if not boring. I came back on Tuesday. I went back to work and I worked Tuesday night, and that's it. It's only day I worked this week, and let's see. Yeah, when was it? Friday, I guess. Friday afternoon. My daughter's like, "Hey, we're having a party over here," kind of in conjunction with my oldest daughter's 22nd birthday, and which is next Wednesday. And so I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I got nothing going on. I didn't get a dispatch. I'll go ahead and head that way. No big deal." And the last time I was home, which would have been last weekend, I took my truck down and I got my tires balanced and rotated and oil changed and all that because I was kind of chasing an intermittent vibration. Um, and on the way back here to my house, which is about 30 miles from San Angelo, I was like, it's still vibrating. So I was like, huh, yeah, I really need to get underneath the truck and check those U joints because something is funky here.
Those are the best
And
kinds.
yeah, and then I didn't, and then I drove all the way back to Midland. It's a 100 mile drive, and on the way back to Midland, like, now that is definitely a U joint. That is definitely a U joint. Then I got home or back to work or whatever, and then I didn't check the U joints. I'm just like, out of sight, out of mind. Once the truck's not running, it's not, or not, not moving, it's not vibrating. You just don't think about it. And
Right.
so Friday, I gathered up all the stuff that I needed and I threw it in the pickup and I fired it up and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let me go throw my coveralls on right quick. Let me slide underneath there and check the U joint. And boy, am I glad I did because the front U joint had worn on all of the needle bearings were gone in two opposite caps. The caps that are actually in the drive shaft end and they had worn all the way through the caps and into the driveline. So yeah. Now, when I bought that pickup or got that pickup 2 years ago, it came with two brand new U joints in the box underneath the back seat, and along with like some spare headlight bulbs and pulleys and idlers and spare belt stuff like that. And I was like, well, thank goodness I've got U joints right here. I'll just knock these suckers out right quick. Wrong U joints. So I popped one out, went down to the parts store, got the right one, slapped it in there, and then made it home, albeit 2 hours late. On Friday evening, I got back here almost 9 p.m. on Friday, right before sunset. And just been hanging out here. At 108 degrees yesterday, so it was really too hot to do anything. So about 10 o'clock last night, I get out to the shop. I fired up my full forge for the first time probably this year, and just pounded out a couple leaves and just for something to do, I guess. And that's it. That's my week in a nutshell for the most part.
Right, right. I noticed Speargrass just popped in. Howdy. Um,
Hello, hello.
yeah. Yeah, I remember the U joint uh was one of the main issues with my what caused my transmission on my truck, the Allison transmission, to just go and I spun the extension housing, cracked it in half because of a bad U
Yep.
joint. So
My
yeah,
uh, my
good
my
catch.
my '95 Chevy, when I bought it, had a transmission leak, and it would leak fluid as fast as you could pour it in there. And they didn't know why. I bought the pickup for $400, and I crawled up underneath there, and the tail shaft housing was cracked, and that's what the problem was. And it had a vibration as well. And somebody had, you know how this one had the U joints with the bolts and the clips that go over it.
Hmm.
Like this Dodge that I'm driving right now, all four caps are pressed in. So basically that means hammer and a socket. But uh, the poor man's press. But that Chevy had the caps. Well, one U joint cap was all the way out at the end of that bolt, and the other one was 3/16 of an inch in, when it should have been, there should have been about an eighth of an inch. I guess that's a quarter of an inch in. There should have been about an eighth of an inch gap on either side where the bolt overhung the cap. And so yeah, so the U joint was installed uh, um, an eighth of an inch to one, out of center,
Right.
and that vibration cracked the tail shaft housing.
Mm. Mm. Well, what's up,
Just
Mr.
just a,
Pekka?
just a simple little mistake of not putting in the U joint straight. Uh, Cost the transmission, because that particular pickup did not have a replaceable tail shaft housing like the old Turbo 300, 400, 700, or 4s did.
Right.
And so I had to replace the entire transmission because somebody did a U joint wrong.
Yeah.
Now
Let's say
yours, did you have to replace the whole transmission, or was it just the end piece?
the extension housing and well, basically I had to have my transmission rebuilt. They tore it out, tore it apart, and did parts cleaner, redid all the gaskets and redid all the seals and everything. Like basically rebuilt my transmission. Replaced any parts that were issuous. So at 140,000 miles or so, or 150,000 miles, uh, it had like a near full rebuild. Um,
Okay.
but I just want to say, hey, Mr. Pecco, what's up, Charlie Becker, Paul Orchard, Robert Whitney's in the house, Aaron Dennis, Curtis, how you doing? Uh, yeah, uh, yeah. So, well, at least you got that fixed. Um, how was your week there, Adam?
Sorry, I was a little bit behind there, guys. I just got home from a friend's birthday party, so made a promise that I would be there this evening, and So I went and just was run a little bit behind the way home because I lived a little bit back in towards town than I'd like. When it comes to my week, I did not much. If you follow my Instagram, some people would have seen that I made post a picture of a bush chandelier. So I whacked together a bush chandelier this week. Also bought a heap of meat and cut it up with the knife that I made for my missus. But apart from that, I haven't really done anything. I did overtime this week for work just to get a little bit extra money together so I could do the things that I need to do over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, it's just been head nose to the grindstone. Really, had some good news. Some people that I didn't think were going to be showing up in a couple of months' time messaged me the other day and said plan to change and they'd be able to show, which is absolutely ecstatic. One of my best friends is able to actually come and see me, so now it's just a matter of being able to convince him whether to move up here and stay.
Yeah. Speaking
Yeah.
speaking of knives being made.
Segue, wasn't it?
Oh, Adam, were you in Roy's stream on Friday?
No, I wasn't.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I do hear rumors that he made a pointy cutting thing.
Oh,
Did
Roy.
Roy finally join the Stark side? Did he?
Roy has made the career decision to switch from uh, artistic blacksmithing to being solely and completely only doing knives from here on out. He found that he has got such a knack for it that he can crank out probably 100 knives in a day. And he has decided that he is going to change his entire business plan to being the premier knife smith for the blacksmith. I can't even keep saying it
Let's
with a
just
straight
say,
face.
knife, Christ-centered knife works does have a certain ring to it as well.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Oh.
Oh my God, I'm
We're all
sneezing. I'm
going to
laughing.
hell. I know this, right? We're all going to hell.
Roy. Oh Lord. Um, yeah, so I just had to get those digs in. I promised him I would. He promised no, he said he would. Yeah, he doesn't want this information out.
Watch it now.
And it's a good thing that I'm a small channel because nobody's going to see this. I mean, I showed this and people thought it was me because they didn't expect it to be Roy. I'm like, don't you recognize that anvil? That hammer? They're famous. And it's like, no, yeah. And it took him 24 minutes, 25 minutes or so. And he
5 minutes to forge out a cutty poker shape. That's
and
pretty
and
pretty
and,
handy.
and half of that time was normalizing.
That's true.
That was this guy right here, who, as I understand, he shaved his head because he's trying as hard as he can to emulate me. I tell you guys all, it's like I taught him everything I know. It took 10 minutes. Yeah. Anyway, had to throw those digs in there. Love you, Roy. He goes, shut y'all's dirty mouths. um, but morning, Shane. But yeah, so my week, uh, man, I can't remember my week. It was productive. It was hot and sticky. Did a lot of outdoor work and just moving along, just moving along to chip away at all the work we have coming up. I did get in the shop a little bit. Finished off I had 10 sets of handles for tray tables that I needed to make. Got those finished off. I got to box them up and ship them out in order to get paid. I got one hammer ready for a customer and another hammer that I'm going to be working on my live stream today, the smaller, easier hammer. So yeah, uh, it's been a productive week. I found out that what's it called? JB Weld. It works up to temperatures up to 550 degrees. And as we talked last week about forge hoods, we know that the forge hood gets to about that. And I'm going to use JB Weld putty to seal some of the holes in my forge hood. So
I can tell you that is not a great smell. I've when I was a much younger person, I attempted to patch some exhaust stuff with JB Weld once upon a time, and I would not recommend.
okay. All right. So then I guess what I'm going to do is just fill it with welding rod. I just got a bunch of holes. Um,
What
uh,
you can do, Yarmis?
huh?
There is one more thing you could do.
What?
Build a new forge hood.
No, it's just finishing the forge hood that I've already built. I basically slapped it
But see,
together.
the problem is if he was to build a new forge hood, he'd never have to build another one. So
Yeah. My forge hood
Such
would
a
smell like a
such a
Harvester.
horrible thing to think about.
Y'all are terrible. Uh, but yeah, and that and that is an excellent segue to our topic of the week, which is excessive perfection. Okay. And what we were discussing this a little bit before the show, and what that kind of means, what the point of bringing up excessive perfection is. Uh, it's a hard one to it's a hard concept to imagine. Uh, Sully brought up the point of a razor blade that he had bought years ago, and I'll let him tell that story, and it kind of exemplifies what we're talking about, and then we'll go into where it would apply for blacksmithing.
okay, so I was thinking, you know what? This is quite fortuitous actually. In 2017, in the month of June, well, it's the first last week of May, first weekend in June, I believe. So it had been about June 1st, 2nd, 2017. I took a family vacation to this place right here, Pikes Peak, Colorado. And upon my return from Pikes Peak, that vacation, I was at Sam's Club before I went back to Midland, and I picked up a Members Mark razor. It's the handle, and then it comes with the blades. You can. Now they didn't specifically sell packs of blades; they just sold the whole big old box with 17 blades and a razor handle. And I'm like, well, we'll give it a shot. I mean, try this one, try that one, try this one, try that one. It's kind of hard to find something that you really like. Um, that was 2007. That was over 5 years ago. Um, I shave on a very regular basis, i.e., every single day, and I mean, let's face it, this baby face is not easy to come by. But I just now finished the last blade out of that or out of that package of 17. 5 years to go through 17 blades. Now, while then that may not be that remarkable, I'm not really sure. I mean, to me, that seemed a bit odd. But I remember maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years after I had bought it, I went looking to buy a second one so I would have one at home and one at work, and not have to, because I like to be able to just get in my pickup and drive to work, and get in my pickup and drive home, and not have to like pack a bunch of stuff other than like say medication and whatnot, and take with me. That way I've got everything I need at home, and I've got everything I need to work. So I've got everything doubled. And so the idea was I'd have the best razor in the world at home and at work. Unfortunately, they discontinued it. Um, I'm not really sure why. Then the only thing I could think of is they made a product that was so good that once people bought it, they never had to really buy it again. I mean, I've 17 razor blades. It's been 5 years, and I know for a fact it's discontinued. I can't go get another pack of 17. So it got me to thinking: is there a is it possible that it it can be problematic to make something so good that you basically over engineer yourself out of necessity? Um, Now, anyways, that's how the idea came about, and I'll let Yamanas take the next part.
Yeah, we were talking about it, and it's like I was trying to figure out how that would apply to modern blacksmiths, and like I was thinking, yeah, Roy's going to make a candle holder that somebody, he makes it for a customer. They never have to buy anything ever again. It's going to be just perfect. And I'm like, not Roy. And then we got thinking about blacksmiths' tools and stuff, and traditionally a blacksmith would provide, make and provide tools for a town or an industry or something, and they would come to the blacksmith for tool repair and etc. Yada yada. And it's like, okay, well, how to attribute that to modern? Um, well, all right, and we're talking like hammer punches and some of the consumable tools that we use, punches, drifts, etc. Um, and take a hammer eye punch, for example. Say a hammer eye punch that you would buy from a quality blacksmith would last about what 2 3 years of regular use. Imagine if and you love that, you every 2 years you go to them and buy it. You got a repeat customer. Now imagine if you were to make a hammer eye punch that, I don't know, you mix it with titanium, and you make this magical steel that, not only never wears out or deforms, but in fact gets better as you use it. It's the perfect tool. And you only buy it once. And then that customer will never buy that tool from you ever again. You've over engineered yourself out of a sale, future sales. Just using that as an example. But uh, I say it out loud, and I'm like, man, that would be an awesome tool to have. but uh, but yeah, and it kind of tips into that Harbor Freight mentality, of as a business model. You know what? We're going to make the cheapest possible tools. People will be coming back because they're cheap. And, it's like, hey, I got this disc grinder or angle grinder, and it lasts for a year. And then every year somebody comes back to buy a new one.
Well, and even on that account, I mean, they offer you for like $5 the extended warranty or whatever, or replacement plan, what have you. And then so you could literally buy the $15 grinder, add $5 to it, and never buy another grinder. You just walk in there and exchange it every year. Most people, I would say, but they think of about this beforehand. Most people, I mean, it's a $15 grinder. If it breaks, I'll just buy another one. I'm not going to throw the extra $5 at it for whatever. And so, for maybe 10% of the people, they're gonna be replacing that grinder every year. But the other 90% of the customers, they're just going to come in and buy one every year or 2 years when it wears out. I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm not buying the warranty. I'm going to buy the cheap grinder, or 7 of them, and I'm going to set them up on my little wall there, each one with a different head on it, so I don't have to change heads. I just grab the grinder that's got the attachment on it that I want, and go from there. When the bearings go out in one, which is the only thing that I've ever had go bad with them, is the bearings in the head go out. And when the bearings go out, I take the whatever attachment is off of it, I throw the whole dang thing in the trash, and I next trip to Harbor Freight, I'll buy a new one. No big deal. I mean, honestly, in 4 years, I've only ever had to replace one. So, I mean, it's, are they really that bad? I mean, I don't think so. I mean,
No,
but,
no, and
but, but they have, but the point being is if you did that with, say, Makitas or something of a higher quality, that's $100 a grinder or $200 a grinder. Well, or I don't know. I can't say they don't ever wear out, but they do last a lot longer.
Yeah,
So I mean, I guess theoretically, I mean, you could just buy one grinder and change the heads out all the time and just never need another grinder.
right. Well, the purpose and point of the topic is less of an actual circumstance, and more
More
of a
theoretical.
theoretical and hypothetical. Even your razor blade analogy, the story from the beginning, it still wore out. It just took a lot longer to do. So it's more of a perfection would be to never have an issue, to never wear out, to never. And Roy put it kind of, aptly. From dust we came, dust we will return. Nothing lasts forever, and everything is in a state of decay. It's the universal law of the universe. You used universe too much in that. It's a You could have stopped at universal law.
Now, now I could say, I'm sure everybody is completely stumped on the razor analogy because there's like nobody in this chat that's ever has seen a razor in 20 years. But if you did, you would realize they wear out a lot faster than that. I mean, like even like the Gillettes and the all the fancy razors. Typically, I would say, or the Harry's or the Dollar Shave Club or whatever. Those are actually pretty high quality, but still, you got to replace the head every 4 to 6 weeks, I would guess.
Yeah,
And yet, Sam's Club marketed a razor that lasted quarterly. I mean, like 3 to 4 months. I mean, like the cheapest place you can get it offers probably the best one that was ever made. I mean, and I haven't tried every razor in the world, but I'm just saying, I mean, like the cheapest place you can get it turned out to offer something that high a quality,
to be
marketed
fair,
under their store brand name.
we are
Now,
talking about disposable razors.
yes,
Yeah, not
I was
like
gonna,
what's that?
I'm going to say two things. First of all, on this topic of razors, Alex, I use a old-fashioned safety razor with the double-sided razor blade that you can buy separately, right? Wilkinson Wilkinson Sword is the one that actually makes my razor blades, and I go through about 2 a year. So I buy a pack of 5, and I get about it. I haven't bought a pack of those for a year or so now. But you can be buying a pack of 5. So maybe I could send you some if they're the right type of razor blades that I'm thinking about there, Alex. Second is this kind of comeback. This kind of reminds me of the boot theory of economics.
Yeah, I love the
Um,
Sam Vines boots theory.
yeah, right. So and that's what it comes down to. There's always going to be a demand. Like if you can make something that's high quality and it's going to last for a long time, there's always going to be a demand for it by those who know what quality is because they understand that quality is cheaper. Quality costs less. Cheap things cost more. And this really comes back to what you were just saying about the grinders there before, Alex. You spend $15 a year on a grinder over 10 years, that's $150. You spend $100 on a good quality grinder that lasts 20 years, you've saved yourself. You haven't spent this. That quality lasts. That quality is cheaper. So so is there in my opinion, is there a such thing as excessive perfection? Yes, in the sense of you can make a product that will last longer and therefore cost the producer more money in the sense of you're not getting that quicker repeat customer. However,
Yeah,
if you account for that in your initial pricing, then when they do come back, now Sully, if you had have gone and seen those razor blades were 3 times the price, or that razor was 3 times the price, would you have bought it?
nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
Even if even knowing the quality and even knowing that you wouldn't have to buy another razor for another 10 years or whatever, however long it be, would you still not buy it?
Actually, no. If I had known when I bought it how good it was going to be, I would have bought every one they had, and I never had to buy another one the rest of my life. But I didn't realize they were as good as they were until they were already discontinued. And then I'm just like, ugh. And I mean, like I've been searching the dark web and eBay and Amazon. Like, somebody's got to have one of these things they never opened, Yeah, no, they're a unicorn now. But having never bought it before, I would not have paid twice the price for it. Having owned it, I would have. Knowing that the blades lasted 2 to 3 times longer than anything else on the market, I would have paid more for it then.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. So if you are relatively sure of your quality, or you discover your quality, people will pay the higher price for good quality, and that's true across the board. If you look at high quality goods of anything across the board, and look at how long they last versus and what they're made of and their price range versus a cheaper alternative that doesn't last as long, again, quality is cheaper in the long run. So that's the way I see excessive perfection, and that's my personal opinion. Of course, it all comes back to get what you can afford, but that's my opinion anyway. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Morning, Ben. The way I kind of what kind of piqued my curiosity as it applies to here is, I mean, Yama has kind of brought up a point with the hammer eye punch, but missed what I was getting at. I know he didn't miss anything.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
My thinking was using real numbers and a real item. Let's say you pay $135 for a hammer eye drift from your favorite blacksmith, whatever, and I have one, and it lasts a few years, like Yama's saying. Let's say you get a year out of it, of regular use, making hammers every day, and you get about a year out of it before it's just, the top has been mushroomed down and you ground it off, whatever. And we'll say, so every year you got to go spend $130 on it. And then, but as the blacksmith, you could make that exact same drift out of titanium. Now, if you made that thing out of grade 5 titanium, it will never mushroom. It will never bend. I mean, the steel will never scratch it. I mean, it literally, if you made that thing out of hardened grade 5 titanium, it would never be damaged. It would
Through
take the
normal
shock.
use. Yeah.
Through normal use, yeah, okay, yeah, you could put it in a press and you could break it in half if you wanted to. But I mean, I'm just saying, through normal use, it would never wear out. I mean, it would 10 years from now, it would look as new as it did as the day you bought it. Unfortunately, to buy a piece of titanium that long and that big around, it's going to cost you $700 just for the material. And then the fuel that you're going to consume as a blacksmith to forge that down into a drift. I mean, you're talking 2 days. I mean, of just, getting that sucker white hot, bringing it out, hitting it 3 times, and going back in the fire. And so, I mean, there's a lot of work that's going to go into that. And of course, I mean, you could be automated and be using presses and stuff like that, and get her done in a couple hours. But now, at the end of the day, you've got a drift that, in order to sell to the customer, you're really going to have to charge them $1,500 for it at least. So does somebody buy that titanium drift for $1,500, or do they buy the 4141 for 135? I mean, if I had unlimited fundage, sell me that titanium drift. But since I don't, I'll just be like, I'll just get the 4141, and I will see you again next year.
Right.
So does it even make sense to build something knowing having the knowledge and the skill set to build something that is not going to wear out, should you build it or offer it even? I don't know. I mean, that was kind of the point that I was thinking that was rolling around in my brain. What do you do? I mean, not as the consumer buying the. I'm trying not to come at this as the consumer buying the product, but as the manufacturer making the product or the maker making the product. Do you make the best product that you can make? You can make something that will never wear out and need to be replaced, or even though it might cost.
10 times as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point I
Wayne,
was trying to make before, in the sense of, I think yes, right? Because, like, for example, as a maker, right? If I, and just using a hammer eye drift and a hammer eye punch as an example, right? Let's say I made a hammer eye punch and I sold one to Seth Wood. Right now, we know Seth Wood is a hammer maker. That's what he does for a living. And if I was able to sell a hammer, and that's what he does day in, day out, every day, I sold him a hammer eye drift, he'd never have to worry about his hammer drift breaking ever again, and he's cranking out hammers, right? He would pay for that quality, right? And that is an essential key to his business, and he would probably pay that a little bit more for that.
right.
Whereas, someone like me who's only making the occasional hammer, am I going to pay $1,500 for a hammer eye drift that's going to last forever? No, because I don't need to. It's not essential. It's not an essential part of my business. That's my thoughts on it anyway. Like if you have the ability to make something of that quality, yes, go ahead and make it. But also charge. Don't undersell yourself. Charge what it's worth.
Yeah.
Charge knowing that customer is never going to come back for that exact thing, or unlikely to, unless they're buying another one to give to someone else. It's but also make the higher moving or stuff that's your repeat customer stuff as well. That's just
Yeah.
my opinion.
Roy brings up a good point in the chat. Designed obsolescence only brings prices down because quality isn't high. A reputation for high quality encourages more sales as people share their experiences. Yes. Yeah, that and for every level of quality, it's the same. You can somebody who makes the super quality of a product. There's going to be people that make lower quality, and there's going to be people that make higher quality. You know, um, yeah. So it's like the point is less of making poor quality, uh, purposely making poor quality so that you get repeat customers, but finding that balance of a one-off tool versus something that will last and will work and is good quality. And yeah, it's again, it's why it's hypothetical, because if you really think about it, every every each different item has a bit of a different spin on it, um and I can't think to articulate what I'm thinking or what's in my head right now. But essentially, it's like, yeah, uh, Roy is right. There's always more customers. It's like you could sell one-offs to everybody, and the word
Now,
gets around that you make an item that never has to be replaced, and ultimately every single shop in the world has one of your items. And
now to
huh?
be clear,
To be
I don't.
clear,
Clear. I don't mean intentionally making something of inferior quality with the intention of selling more of it. That's not what I meant at all. I mean, I think as a group of makers, we make something to the best of our ability at every opportunity, and oftentimes, by our own eye, it's still not good enough. I mean, everything that goes out the door, you're like, I could have done that better. I could have done that better, and that's just the way we are. Except for Roy. Roy's like, that shit's perfect. No worries. But so I don't think anybody I didn't really mean like, oh, should you make an inferior product, so much as uh, uh, in the example of the drift, well, it's not really practical to make a titanium drift because it's so cost prohibitive. Granted, you only ever got to make one, or you only ever got to buy one, but it's cost prohibitive. So as a maker, knowing that you could make that, or just like keep on keeping on. And, I mean, like for the most part, I mean, when you buy drifts or whatever, if you buy them or make them or whatever, you make it out of what's on hand, be it 4140 or 1080 or any other tough steel that you find acceptable. By no means do I mean just like cutting one out of a piece of cast iron and then grinding it to shape just because you can.
Yeah, grabbing a window weight and shaping it.
Yeah.
Um,
Boy, wouldn't that be a nightmare for a customer?
right. Man, Roy's just bringing up point after point after point. And making me want to kind of defend this topic a little bit, even because again, this is all hypothetical, and more less theoretical discussion, because when you really think about it, some of the actual time frames for the tools we're discussing, you know, is a good quality 4140 drift, will last your lifetime, if you really think about it. It may need some dressing, it may need some clean up here and there. No, absolutely do not shut up, Roy. As a matter of fact, I was going to lead into, if you want to talk that much, you can hop on the mic and join us, because you're bringing up some excellent points, um and that's great for a topic like this, because it's it is a conversational topic. We're not here telling you guys fact. Do not spend money on a never needs replacement tool. We're just discussing from the maker's point of view, like all of that stuff. And again, theoretical, because I mean, we're talking about a tool or manufacturing something that never needs to be replaced. You know,
And,
uh,
and Roy, I wasn't I was by no means inferring that you in any way make anything inferior. Quite the opposite, in fact. I'm quite sure if somebody buys your treadle hammer kit
damn it, I was going to do that
in
plug.
in six Chrysler Ironworks was it, no, blacksmithpds.com, something like that.
Yeah,
I probably screwed that up, but off the top of my head. But I mean, I'm sure, yeah, you buy one, and then in 6 months you're buying one for a friend. And you'll never have to buy that again. So
yeah. Especially if you get the upcoming air
I
assist
I was
feature
hoping
to it.
I was hoping I was hoping Roy would be in here because he's got the viewpoint of that high end
Yeah,
selling something. He sells something that everybody wants. I mean, other than the consumables like the blanks and whatever, which are obviously a repeat thing. But I mean, if you buy the C-frame guillotine tool or whatever, you're only ever going to buy one.
yeah.
You know,
Which is why it's kind of hypothetical for our situation. It's which is why it's really more a theory, a theoretical topic to talk about. You know, uh, because it is, what we make does last a long time. you know especially if they're made correctly with the correct materials, with the use case in mind for the geometry and uh, 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 metallurgy behind it. Using the example of a hammer eye punch. You know, um, even a tool that you buy and you only have to redress it and kind of clean it up every couple of months will still last a lifetime. Uh, we're kind of condensing the life of a tool down for the theoretical topic for the conversation, you know, um, because in reality, this is more apt of a topic to address the disposable nature of society as it stands. You know, as Roy pointed out, over the past 50 years, the mindset of the consumer has gone cheap and disposable. They'd be more apt if something breaks to throw it away and buy a new one than to buy something that will last, that will be an heirloom item, that they could pass down to their kids. Harkening back to the Sam Vine's boots theory of socioeconomics. Uh, Applying it to blacksmithing when blacksmithing tools are known to last a long time, for the theory of discussion, we've got to condense that down to a manageable time frame. Uh, but it's still an amazingly fun topic to discuss.
When a lot of people, we all know, like for example, an anvil will,
Yeah,
some of you are using anvils that are 250 years old, but to conceptualize that, that is something like 6 generations.
yeah,
So that's your father's, your grandfather, your great grandfather, your great great grandfather, your great 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 grandfather, his father owned it.
yeah,
That's before some people and many people had moved to America. That's before Australia had been founded as a country.
yeah,
Before it had even been settled. There was no one here. So that's why particularly with this topic, we're compressing that time frame down because
yeah,
these, particularly for tools that that we're using, some of the tools that we're using, they can be hundreds of years old, and we just as humans who at a stretch we can live 100 years. Those time frames are mind-boggling.
yeah. And of that 100 years, how much are you actually being productive? Uh, eh,
Yeah,
that's a different
good stick in it.
topic. But the it's I'm a firm believer when it comes to, especially when it comes to anvils, that you don't ever own an anvil. Like you're just taking care of it while you're around it. I think anvils secretly, I think anvils are alive and a species on this planet, albeit an artificial species, a species nonetheless. And yeah, we're just their caretakers as they move slowly through the eons.
Anvils are like cats; they own us.
Yeah, yeah. How many times have you gone into your shop and your anvil's sitting there on its stump saying, "Feed me steel"? You got to take care of it, or it'll leave
You
you.
know, that Anvils is one of those things that I think about from time to time. The one I got at work is a 1820s mouse hole. Been around a while, coming up on 200 years here in about another 2-3 years. Uh, 200 years old. That's seen a lot of people. And then the anvil I got here is 4 years old, 4-year-old Holland. And so I'm the second owner of this anvil, and but how long is for how many decades or centuries is somebody else going to be
Yeah,
swinging on that
like
long after I'm gone?
let's
Short of somebody getting a hold of it in an estate sale and going, let's drill a hole in the bottom of it and fill it full of black powder and see how high it'll go.
yeah, right. let's have a fun little mental exercise on Sully's 4-year-old anvil. Okay, as you know, some of the anvils that we have are old, like hundreds of years old. So, yep, you can hop on anytime, Roy. I just want to finish this thought. You hop on and listen, um, and talk all you want. But uh, let's take this fun exercise into the future. So Sully's anvil is currently 4 years old. That would make it 2018. Okay.
Correct.
Think think about what the world will be in about call it 200 years. You know, uh, 2022 or two, 2222. All right. We've colonized other planets by this point, and Sully's Holland Anvil is what somebody who wanted I'm going to go colonize Mars. We're going to need stuff to build civilization from the ground up. Blah 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 blah. Somebody brings an anvil, and lo and behold, it happened to be this person's great 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 grand relative, and uh, boom, they've got a anvil on the moon or on Mars, and they're using that anvil on Mars, and oh man, this anvil dates back to Earth times, you know, and stuff like that. So it's like anvils can span so many generations, and then from there, so I lost my train of thought. I know
Yeah, I'm
Roy
not
is
sure where you were going with that. While it was a fantastic thought process,
a
I forget your
fantastic
point was.
mental journey. Um, and with that, Roy has popped in because he's got this little itch in the back of his neck saying, I've got to talk. I've got to talk. He's going to rant at us now. Good morning, Roy. How have you been?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Am
Yes,
you.
I coming
loud
in
and
clear? Good. So, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to share a few of my thoughts. You had said about the higher end ironwork
Yeah,
kind of thing. So, I figured I could maybe speak to that a little bit and share a little bit of information.
sure.
Yeah,
That
we would
sounds
love it.
good.
Everybody in the
Okay.
chats, everybody in the chats, chanting Roy rant.
So, all right. Well, here we go. Let's get into it. The thoughts I'd like to take and share on, about perfection. Is there such a thing as, too much perfection? And my thought on that is that there really isn't. We are always in a constant, state of flux, chasing perfection in our work as blacksmiths that we're trying to offer to the customers. You can get an unhealthy amount of that chasing, that trying to constantly be perfect at things where you never complete anything to actually offer the world. And you can even get to a point where you self degrade yourself to where you're saying, oh, my work's no good. Oh, this is
Hmm.
terrible. Oh, this is horrible.
Hmm.
And you don't have that confidence to offer that art that you're offering to the world, right? And so, in my opinion, that's a separate thing than can an item become so perfect as to where it is no longer a viable, marketable item. And that there, I don't believe is so. Just because there's always people dying and there's always people being born, and even if you were the granddaddy master Pumbaa of all blacksmiths ever and you made just the most perfect ironwork ever, there's over 7.3 billion people on this planet. It's not possible for you to serve each and every last household with your ironwork
But we can try,
alone. So, oh, you can certainly try. That's definitely.
as you've
So,
shown.
when you design stuff for a client, like large scale clients, you know, fancy homes, I don't know, some basilica in France somewhere. When you're doing that, you want to put all your cards out on the table, do the best job that you can possibly do in that moment in time. And its ability to last will be decided upon how well people take care of it. And if I could give one example, then I'll shut up and let rebuttals happen. One example of this is Cyril Kolnick's work. A lot of his work has been destroyed. And I'm talking stuff that blows your mind, and I've shared about his work before in the past. And the only work that's ever survived of his was because of his one and only daughter basically dedicating her house to being a museum for her father's work. Other than that, all of it would have been tore down when they tore down big buildings, and when he he did multiple manors that then got demolished and reconstructed as a Denny's, or whatever, over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's kind of part of that equation there as well. Even if he was still alive, nothing stops his ironwork from going to the scrapyard, so to speak, right? And being scrapped out and not being there for future generations to oogle and Google at. But that shouldn't necessarily indicate or dictate what you do in your shop to try to chase that perfection, right? And to try to design stuff to live on long after you're gone.
Absolutely.
That was it.
Yeah. And I will say, one of the that would be the dividing point of the topic. Artwork and architectural ironwork, such as balustrades and stair rails, window grills, etc., etc., decorative accent pieces. Absolutely, the strive for perfection there is to be the top of the game, to be to have that lasting impression that people see it and go, I cannot tear that building down. It has such beautiful artistry going into it. That's a little. That's not so much what we were talking about with the excessive perfection. I agree with your point, and but we're more talking about that specific somebody who's known for making just, and like I said before, we're condensing it down for ease of topic uh, in the blacksmithing realm. We're talking more consumables that a blacksmith would make. Um, you know,
As it pertains to artistry, I
yeah,
mean, you count on that lasting indefinitely,
yeah.
or as long as the bill. And I actually, it never really occurred to me until just now when Roy was talking about it that we, God dang it, when you really,
Flies.
yes, a fly.
And
Come at me.
busts out the bug spray.
Anyway, it never really occurred to me because when you make hardware for buildings and artistic pieces for buildings, in my head I've always think of these things lasting forever. I mean, like if you build this handrail or a banister or whatever, or cabinet hardware, door hardware, or whatever for this building, it's just going to stand the test of time and always be there. But it had it hadn't occurred to me that in short order, within your lifetime, even possibly, that building could be demolished. And all of that stuff's just it's either getting scrapped out, most likely, or it's just getting, pushed over with the dozer and loaded into a roll off and headed off to the landfill. It hadn't really occurred. I mean, like that whole situation just kind of made me kind of think. It's like, huh, it hadn't occurred to me that I might still or one, not necessarily me, one could still potentially outlive their artwork. Um, okay, I got off on a tangent there in my head, and I just had to kind of explore that for a minute.
It
So
was the
sorry.
fly.
Yeah, and
But
now I'm fly hunting. Come on, come at me.
yeah,
I got the can, so he left.
but yeah,
So
to
to
be
speak on the tooling,
yeah.
because you were saying that you're condensing it down to tooling, correct, Yamas?
Yeah. Well, we're also condensing the
consumable.
time frame, consumable tooling. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
punches, drifts, things that mushroom out over time. As you use it, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter because of the dressing. That
hmm hmm
eventually, and admittedly, these tools will still, even with all that, will last a lifetime. But we're condensing that time frame for that theoretical topic of or to allow for that theoretical conversation, for that hypothetical
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, so I could speak to that a little bit, and I think it's a great parallel to Sully. Sully was talking and explaining, if I heard him, understood him correctly, that whenever he buys a Harbor Freight grinder, right, an angle grinder, and it lasts him a year or two, or he's only on a second one. Sully, which one is that?
I've had them for 4 years. I've only ever had to replace one, but
Okay, so you've had them for 4 years and you've only had to replace one. Okay.
yeah, admittedly, I don't expect them to last. I don't expect them to last more than a year, but they have so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'll say to that is so Harbor Freight, they sell they don't sell the best of stuff, and people say, well, some of their stuff is, well, or most of their stuff is pretty low quality. That's kind of universally agreed upon by a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, not necessarily everyone. Okay, so there's a price point, whatever you bought those at. At one time, I was buying the Harbor Freight angle grinders for $7.50 each. So you're not expecting a whole lot. I know that they're a lot more than that now, currently, and I haven't tried out any of their new stuff. But when I was doing copper vessel work at the tune of 1,000 pieces per year, which I've stepped way back from doing that now, when I was doing that level, I was burning through one angle grinder from Harbor Freight every 3 to 4 days for my polishing work.
Wow.
So my level of usage was like putting 30 years on that tool in 3 to 4 days, right?
Yeah.
3 to 4 days time. So I was burning through them. I bought I think it was $120 at the time, Bosch angle grinder, and I started using it instead. It was a big, expensive purchase, but I'm like, well, hopefully it'll last longer than the Harbor Freight ones, right? And this isn't a big advert for Bosch, but I still have that Bosch angle grinder in my shop, and it's getting used daily to grind slag off of the plasma cut blanks. And I've probably ground 10,000 pieces now, at least, with that one angle grinder, and it's still going strong. So the usage would also dictate where you're at on that price scale of what is considered quality, right? You could put that quality on a spectrum, right? So if somebody was going, or on a scale, a sliding scale, as you will, as the time and usage goes up in the amount of time that you're spending with this tool in your hands, the lifespan is going to go down proportionately to that. So if you're a guy that and I use the weekend warrior, that has a bad context to it. Everybody just understands the jargon, but
Yeah.
like if all you're doing is hitting up your forge whenever you kind of get a second or you get a chance, but that's not your main bread, it's not your main butter. And even if it is your main bread and butter, but maybe you don't do a lot of grinding work, why go out and spend on a $240 angle grinder or a $120 angle grinder when that $15 Harbor Freight special is going to last you 5, 6, 7 years
Yeah.
at the same rate? You get where I'm going with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not necessary to have the uber special drift from some maker that claims it's going to last you a lifetime if you're only ever going to make 3 hammers in your lifetime.
Right.
that kind of thing. So that's my thoughts on that.
And that brings it down perfectly to kind of solidify the point. Admittedly, this topic is so multifaceted and has so many angles of approach, and you brought up like the main weakness in the argument, but absolutely, and okay, so with that, using pure consumables and using the angle grinder analogy, and the consumable aspect of an angle grinder, if there was a cutting, what a grinding wheel. Say there was a grinding wheel that you could buy, and it would always be sharp, and by always I mean for the next 300 years. This specific grinding wheel would be the only grinding wheel you would ever have to buy. However,
let's call that a vibrating diamond blade with a monomolecular edge.
Sure. And it would be the only one that you would have to buy, and you use it all the time. Okay. Yet it costs $9,000, but you know that you would never have to buy another cutting wheel. You would really have to weigh your costs and be like, man, $9,000 now or $9,000 over the course of the next 20 years.
That's with the presumable assumption that you are going to be grinding or cutting things with that particular style grinder or blade for 20 years.
Right.
And
that would have to go part of that.
Yeah. Again, so many facets to the discussion. That's what makes it an interesting discussion. I mean, like you could literally go off on there's 1,000 tangents about this discussion, and which is why I think it's a cool topic. But
yeah, I was just I don't know, I kind of with that whole diamond monomolecular it's a theoretical baby of mine for like the last 10 years, researching how it would, because diamond is the only thing you could do it with, just because of the nature of the crystalline structure of diamond. But if one were able to achieve a monomolecular edge, it would effortlessly slide through any material it was touched against. Like literally, if you made a knife with a monomolecular edge, I could just hold this coffee cup up and slide it right through it. I mean, it would just, because a monomolecular edge would pass between the molecules and just spread them apart. Anyway, so that's been one of those science fiction things that's sometimes late at night laying in bed, I'm like, a scanning electron microscope with a laser, just could it be done?
Yeah. Speaking
so your brain goes on those wild tangents too.
Oh yeah. And then I lay there looking at the ceiling going, how close could I get,
I'm not alone. Yay.
Speaking of, making a monomolecular blade, Roy, our resident knife expert, would you be able to hand forge the perfect had to be done.
Sadly, I did not get to make any more than about the first 10 minutes of that stream, because that's when I discovered that I was fixing to leave and watch Roy as I was driving home. And that's when I discovered my front U-joint was in a shambles, and I had to proceed to crawl underneath the truck and change it. So I missed everything after the first 10 minutes. And I only found out about the preceding chaos that ensued this morning.
Yeah.
It never happened, no matter what Yama says.
He was yanking my chain the whole time. I see how it
is. But to answer your question, Yamas, yes, and on Forged in Fire, I would be able to do it.
Right on. There you go. You heard that. You heard that here. Roy is seeking to go on Forged in Fire. No, I've always joked that I would love to see you go on Forged in Fire and then be on there and you like make a rose but sharpen the petals and then still win. And then still win.
Be like, hey, it met parameters.
Yeah. It's 11 inches
You said
long.
12 inches overall.
It's 12 inches. It cuts through wood. It slices through apples. What do you want? So yeah.
Let me stab you in the neck with it. Tell me if it will heal.
No, I would most likely just make with the rest of my time on the show, I would just make like a really decorative like staghorn display all out of steel.
Yeah.
For the handle, to display the knife when they say, please present your blade. Like, here it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's like this we get sidetracked with jokes, but the main purpose of the discussion is to get you thinking on and as Sully brought up the monocles monomolecular blade idea, to really play with your mental agility. You got to think into the realm of science fiction of it. But Roy bringing us all back down to earth, and bringing up, what? Yeah, you can make something completely perfect that will never have to be replaced ever in anybody's lifetime at all. But there's still more people that are going to need to buy it until you've made literal billions of them, where everybody on earth is like issued one at birth. You're never going to be out of customers because you'll be known for making that perfect item, and everybody will want it.
I got a question. I got a question for Mr. Ben Toombs there. He just said in the chat that they just cut carbon fiber with a diamond disc. It was brutal. How so? I mean, I cut my carbon fiber with a composite disc, and it slid through it like it was butter. I mean, it just like it wasn't even there. Now, don't get me wrong, the graphite dust goes everywhere. So I was wearing a Tyvek suit and a respirator and goggles and all that because I didn't want to breathe in, black lung and all that stuff. But I mean, was it difficult to cut with a diamond wheel? I don't know. I was curious as to what you meant by that, Ben.
I got a pair of monomolecular scissors that I use to cut my carbon fiber.
Yeah. So on the monomolecular edge there, I'll just kind of rain on a bit of a parade. What is that edge? What is that edge supported by? It's not a singular molecule thick, so it kind of doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If it was monomolecular down to the finest edge that's possible, right? Theoretically possible, it's still going to be backed up by 2.
Well,
and then
okay.
3, and then 10, and then 25, and then so on and so forth. So.
In the world of you bring up the big point against a monomolecular blade in theory. In the realm of science fiction, probably the best science fiction description of a monomolecular tool is it's actually more of a hacksaw style, where you have a frame that holds a monomolecular filament between 2 points, and that is what you pass through it. It has nothing but that monomolecular filament held by like a frame that you use to slice, and the depth of the frame is how far it can cut into something. And that example was actually started, I believe, in the book series Ringworld by Larry Niven, where they actually made one impromptu improvised tool using something they had found in this like overly engineered planetoid kind of thing that they found, the Ringworld. But anyway, yeah, like in the realm of science fiction, to rebuttal the monomolecular will never work. Is like, yeah, you can. It can. It just has to be, you can't think of it as a traditional knife shape. A knife made with a monomolecular edge, yeah, sure, that edge is monomolecular, but the rest of it isn't. So you're absolutely right about
What
that.
do I know? I'm not a knife maker, so I couldn't tell you.
I don't know about that. I mean, from cold steel to finished and ready for quench, including thermocycling. You did a blade in 25 minutes, I believe it
So
was.
24.
basically, what you're saying,
24.
is Roy made it look like when he's not on camera and he runs out of stuff to do, he just sits there and cranks out blades and throws them up against the wall and starts another one.
Yeah, yeah. So I've done some digging on this, and I actually found that uh, Roy has a pseudonym that he sells blades through. Okay, so he actually is a knife maker, but not as Roy. His pseudonym for his blades, and you can go find them on Etsy, is Herbert Humphreys Ironworks. He does awesome blades, and it's actually Roy.
There's Yama spreading his lies again. Pure lies. Don't none of you listeners listen to any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for those people that are listening in that wasn't part of the string, I was making a point, excuse the pun, about knife making is not the pinnacle of blacksmithing.
Yeah.
And since the advent of Forged in Fire, knife makers have had a spotlight put on them. They've been having a little bit of limelight about their craft and what they're doing. And then they tote things around in community forums and everything else. And everything is weighed of its value based upon whether it's a blade or not, or
Yeah.
whether it would make a good blade, or whether you can make Damascus from it or not. Is there any usable steel in a lawnmower? Heck yes, there's a lot of usable steel in a
Tons of
lawnmower. The fact that the lawnmower exists and it's made from steel means it's usable steel, right? It's just not good for making a blade. And unfortunately, that's kind of the thing that's going on is people is, they say, oh, well, that's cool. So when do you think you'll be good enough to make a blade? Right? Like, oh, let us just
right.
play with this artisty smithing thing over here. I figured I'd stretch my wings a little bit and, just practice some of the fundamental stuff. So, I'd just make a fire poker, the simple, the simple little things in life. Now let's get back to the real work, the blade smithing. And
Right.
to make a blade, you're making something flat and pointy, sharp, flat, and pointy. If you want it to work as a knife,
Yeah.
right? And so that was the whole point. For those of you that didn't watch the live stream, is I was trying to show that with learning actual fundamental forging processes and not skipping to the front of the line saying I'm a blade maker.
Yeah.
Which isn't even the front of the line. But
yeah,
instead of saying that, you can make literally anything if you have the skills to do so. So 24 minutes, and that was with me jacking my jaws and, talking to the camera and fooling around and,
dancing,
having a laugh. And
which I have clips of you dancing.
Yeah, I'm doing the knife maker dance. So, that's how all knife makers do.
Yeah.
So that was the whole point of knocking out that blade shape and that short of period of time, because when you watch these guys on Forged in Fire and they've got 35 years into the thing and they can't put a point on the end of a rectangular bar, it's mind-boggling to me. I don't care if there was 50 cameras in my face, I would still be able to put a point on the end of a bar.
Right. Yeah, and it's and as you said during your show, just as a caveat, that is not knocking bladesmiths by any means. It's simply stating that with the eyes of the world on the bladesmithing aspect of blacksmithing, and with all the popularity of it, people are seeing that in this day and age as the pinnacle, like you said, and it's not by any means. Um,
Well,
and on the aspect of it's become a point where is there any usable steel in dot dot dot, and you get see, you read it on a forum. Oh, is this steel any good? Well, absolutely, it's steel. And then you get a dozen responses of no, it's garbage, throw it away. It's like, but it's steel. Oh, it's just mild steel. Yeah, that's a good steel to have in stock. Like that's 90% of my steel is mild. And it's like, you asking as a bladesmith, or you asking as a blacksmith? Because you're going to get two different answers based on you know
I saw in a forum once somebody tell a guy to throw away 3/8 inch coil spring because there wasn't enough material to make a knife in the coil spring.
that's
It's like,
ridiculous.
bro, there's punches, there's slitting chisels, there's like drifts. There's so many things, other springs for mechanisms that you may want to do, and your folding knives even you could beat from it. Like there's so much good usable steel. Flat it out, add it in a sandmy construction with your lawnmower mild steel that you cut from a lawnmower, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
whatever. There's so much usable steel there,
yeah.
but the ignorance
There's
is everything gets weighed by whether you
up.
can make Damascus
Yeah,
from it or if you can make a blade from it that can chop, I don't know,
yeah.
whatever. They're all a bunch of fruit ninjas. They want to chop stuff. There you go.
so I got a question. So, almost all of the steel that I have, I mean, I've got in the floor of my shop, I've got lengths of like 3/8, quarter inch, square, round, small stuff that just for doing trinkets and knocking out little practice projects here and there. But for the most part, all of my large stock is all tool steel. Um, of one variety of another. And when I look at that tool steel, I don't think in any case have I ever looked at any of it and thought about how great of a blade it would make. It's always what kind of a tool can I make out of that, or something like that. And I don't typically use that stuff for decorative stuff. That's just like stuff for tooling, whatever the heck that might be at some point in the future. That's just the way I look at it because honestly, I have no interest in. I mean, yes, I can knock out a pointy, stabby looking thing of inferior quality rather quickly, and it's like, meh, don't really care, don't understand. Um, I don't until Forged in Fire. I had no idea that there was such a thing as a bladesmith or people that made knives by hand. I'm like, why would you make a knife by hand when you can buy one from a factory that's stainless steel? It's an eighth of an inch thick, and it'll slide through your finger like it wasn't even there. I didn't even know that was a thing until Forge of Fire came on, and I'm like, huh, okay, seems like a waste of time to me, but right on. Roy, the point of that whole descriptive element was, Roy, do you think that bladesmithing is a thing now because of Forged in Fire, or has it always been a thing and I just was unaware of it?
So bladesmithing has always been a thing. I got into this craft long before Forge and Fire was a thing, long before there was other fads that currently are still fads in this whole thing. In bladesmithing, yeah, Damascus, rounding hammers, all of that was here and prevalent. Just as time rolls on, certain things get highlighted. Just think of it as like, you could have 100 people on a totally darkened out stage doing their own thing, and then a spotlight gets turned on and it grabs the attention of the general populace because it focuses everybody into one thing, if you will. And that goes in cycles. So we just happen to be living in a cycle where Forge and Fire and blades are a thing, right? That's That's the main thing. That's what everybody knows it for. We went out of a cycle not too long ago where, again, everything was, you're a blacksmith. Oh, how many horses do you shoe? Because
Yeah.
the public consciousness was associated with historical reenactors doing what? Shotting horses or a bunch of horseshoes laying around the shop or whatever, that are trying to present, simple farm life, right? The humble village blacksmith. What does he do? Well, he takes care of people's horses and makes other trinkety things, right? That is what we've come out of, and now we've stepped into the blade making thing, where what it means to be a blacksmith, not a bladesmith, but what it means to be a blacksmith, a big catch-all term, is, oh, well, he must make blades. Yeah. Right? Let me see the blades you work. Well, hey, could you make me a competition style chopper? No. Like, can you make me a skinning knife? I could, but no. Like, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
I make roses, and I make gates, and I make railings, and I make crazy things in steel, right? I make tools for other smiths and whatnots. And the public consciousness isn't turned to that because, well, partly it's maybe not as interesting as blade making, right? You can make a show around blade making because you're fruit ninjaing the hell out of stuff, right? Today we're going to do an apple slice. Ooh, look how them apples just split. Woo! That thing must be sharp, right? Or, hey, we're going to stab a dummy a billion times, and slow-mo the heck out of the, food coloring coming out of the chest of the ballistics dummy, right?
Wait, it's
that
food
they
coloring?
can make exciting versus like, hey, today they're all going to make a drift and drift some hammer eyes open. You just can't really make a show around that.
I'd watch that.
I'd watch the crap out of that. I'd be like, ooh, hammer eye drifts. Sweet.
Yeah. Today at the forge, they're all making hammers. Yeah. You have 4 hours to make a hammer and handle it, and then the next competition.
Done.
Yeah, the next competition will be, okay, how, I don't know, using the hammer to make a knife.
I would compete on Forged in Fire if it was that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like that.
I would go home and put in a week of chisel work.
I want to make a horseshoe out of a knife. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, we're digressing. So,
yeah.
But yeah, the spotlight is just shifts around, right? It just shifts around on the craft, and it's the thing, right? Right now, it's the end thing. But it's up to other people to kind of change that when people come into the craft and they're new, right? They're newbies. They're coming into it. They're excited about it. They're asking if there's any good steel in that lawnmower that they have sitting around, right? It's up to the experienced smiths in the craft, whether they be bladesmiths or not, to take in, rebuttal the folks that are like, oh, that doesn't make a knife, so no, it's trash. Throw it away, right? Because how do you know that guy was actually asking whether they wanted to make a knife or not, right?
I was actually, yeah.
It's up to us to change that kind of
I was actually
norm,
banned
I guess,
from
norm.
I was banned from a Facebook group for bringing that up, like the inordinate amount of questions of, is this knife or is this steel any good? And I'd pop in and I'd see 100 people saying no, it's a horrible, it never hold an edge, and I'd be like, well, is he asking about blades? Or I mean, that piece of steel would be perfect. You could shape it to this, and you can make an awesome door knocker out of it. And then well, he's talking about blades. He didn't say that, and it's like, and these people would start arguing with me, and I'd respond like, and I got booted out of the group for constantly starting arguments, and I'm like, I'm not the one. I'm bringing up valid points. Why am I? Well, because you're confusing people. You're starting arguments and being, confusing people. It's like, is this blacksmithing for big? I mean, never mind. I'm not saying the name of the group. Or is this bladesmithing? It's like,
Yeah. Borchagov made a funny point there. Today we're going to test this gate by slamming it into this pig carcass 3 times. And remember, it's not what your gate does to the pig, but what the pig does to your gate.
Oh, I would watch that. I would watch that. Yeah,
How about this? Let's build some gates, and will this keep the prisoners in?
yeah.
You know,
that would be really cool. You know, get a group of blacksmiths, you know, to build basically a cage, and then you have a bunch of like crafty MacGyver style or MacGyver-esque prisoners, air quotes, in there, and be like, okay, you've got to build an inescapable cage, and you know, using all traditional ironwork and traditional joinery. You know,
well, if
okay,
it's anything like Forged in Fire, it'll be like, I don't know, Steve, this is half-inch bar stock, and I've never used half-inch bar stock before. Don't know if I could do that.
I would watch. I would really watch that.
Oh Lord.
There you go, Trail.
I'm going to be the anti-Forged in Fire guy now, just because I've.
Yeah, and you'll gain 1 million subscribers because of it.
Yeah.
And by proxy, you know, by proxy, our podcast, you know, just on this episode alone, it's going to gain 1 million subscribers. Speaking of which, this will be featured on our podcast. I hope that's okay with you. We snuck you in, and you can download our.
Nope. Edit my voice out.
Nope, not going to happen.
I'm messing with you.
Yeah.
Sure, sounds good.
If you haven't yet, and I'm not speaking just to you, Roy. If you haven't yet, check out the Impractical Blacksmiths podcast on Spotify, and go ahead and download those episodes. They are basically this show put into podcast form, so you can do it in your shop. So if you miss the show on Sunday morning, or you prefer to listen while you're working in your shop, you don't have to sit there and have YouTube running and have the ads playing and this and that and everything. You just download it, put it on your shop speakers, and you know, laugh along with us. You know, even if you're not going to listen to it, download it, and then go ahead and remove it if you need to.
Subscribe, or the Flux Fairies will get you.
Yes.
Yeah. Like and describe. Like and describe. I think that's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Trail Dust has a good solution for you, Sully. Alter Roy's voice so he sounds like Mickey Mouse. Oh,
hello, boys and girls.
and I think we can do that now because I do believe Mickey Mouse is fair use now. I do not know. I haven't been following it closely, but I did hear that McDonald's. I mean, no, what is it? Disney is losing their copyrights. You know. But anyway, again, as usual, I digress. And with that, random. I don't want to turn this into a 2-hour, 3-hour episode. Although you guys know me, I could talk forever.
Right, and I got preparations to make for a birthday shindig. So
yeah, morning Danimals. I'll move into our final thoughts on the topic and about the general discussions today. Let's start with our esteemed guest, famous knife maker Roy. Do you have any final thoughts on the day? I'm sorry, famous blacksmith Roy from Christ-Centered Ironworks. Do you have any?
I have thoughts now.
Empty head, no thought.
Yeah, no. I would just say that I hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend and an awesome upcoming week. And, you know, with anybody who is listening and maybe be new to it and stuff, you know, just, you know, pay attention to where you're resourcing your information, you know, and who's giving it to you and their kind of their agenda behind it, whether you be in Facebook groups or you be on YouTube and things like that. and search out additional information before you chuck out that lawnmower that might be helpful to you in the future, or things like that. And so thank you, Sully. Thank you, Yamez, for having me on. And Adam, I haven't heard from you in a little bit, but thank you for letting me come on and speak a little bit. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your week.
I think Adam fell asleep.
Yeah, I've been listening.
So, since we haven't heard from you, what are your final thoughts on this topic and day there, Adam?
My thoughts is this is a very decisive topic, and that it all depends on the angle in which you're coming at. Is excessive perfection? Are you a perfectionist and you want to make something that's going to last forever, or are you a near enough, good enough, and it'll do for now? It all comes down to that. And for me, I tend to be both, depending on the situation. But just before we get to the final thoughts of our wonderful co-host Alex, I will just thank you all for joining us. You can find Yarmouth on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Alex at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam Speargrass Forge, on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, for those of you that haven't somehow been living under a rock and don't know who our special guest was, that is Roy at Christ Central Ironworks, and you can find him on YouTube and also some of them fantastic blacksmithing. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Not
Tutorials,
resources, blacksmithing resources at blacksmithpdf.com. Now, don't forget, if you have any suggestions for tool of the week, metal of the week, or any other topic, you can leave it in our Discord, links in the description under the hashtag metal of the week, or in the YouTube community chat, or you can email us at islandmetalforge@gmail.com. If you have found us on Spotify and or Anchor, we upload every Wednesday, or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is currently 11:30 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time. But check against your local time for the best time to join us at Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, thank you for watching us. For those of you that have joined us on the YouTube, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. We really do appreciate your support. And Sully, what's your final thoughts?
Yeah, well, first off, I'd like to thank my wonderful co-hosts, Adam and Yamez, and say a special thank you to Roy for popping in for a very special Roy rant on a hypothetical subject that was quite unexpected. I really appreciate you showing up and popping in your 2 cents. Basically made everybody's day just a lot easier. I mean, we didn't have to come up with a bunch of filler material in the middle there. But I hope everybody has a great week. If you got time, get out your shop, make something, have fun at it, be safe, and yeah, stay hydrated, y'all. That's all I got.
Yeah, and from me, thank you to all of you guys, the audience, for being here and participating. My awesome co-hosts, Alex and Adam. I appreciate the heck out of you guys. Roy, you're always a pleasure to have on. You're always welcome. And you know what? I may force you to come back on next week, because back in my brain, thinking ahead, I may make next week's topic treadle hammers. Just to force your hand. No. Roy has made a treadle hammer kit, an extremely affordable treadle hammer kit that you check out the aforementioned website, blacksmithpdfs.com. And soon he will be coming out with air assist, to where you basically just tap it and it goes boom. And I'm super excited for that. I will be saving up and getting one myself. But I hope you guys all take the time to get out to your shop, be safe, and be creative. Even if you don't think you're that good, if you get out to your shop and do something, you're better than the guy that doesn't, in my opinion. Be creative and spread that mentality. Hope you guys have a great, great day. See you next week. Or actually, I'll see you guys later today at 6 p.m. for my forging show, which I will be forging a hammer. Yeah. All right. I will talk to you guys all later. Thank you. And we are out.